It's that time of the year again. whatoplay presents the 10 worst PlayStation 4 games so far, all arranged by playscores. The playscore is an average of gamer and critic ratings. Number 10 is ARK Park. Sure, ARK Survival Evolved is a great MMO game, but this VR take on the Jurassic Park-like experience isn't as grand as everyone thought it would. ARK Park has glaring issues. First, its obvious development was rushed, resulting to an unfinished mess. Second, it's expensive for a glorified tech demo. Intended as a groundbreaking VR title, it disappointed most of ARK's player base with Chinese developer Snail Games' shady, cash-grabbing practices. Graphics-wise, the game is truly impressive. Every detail feels like you're part of a Jurassic Park movie. However, the rest is clunky, controls are wonky, and movement is a vertigo-inducing trip.
If you want to help, I'll take you to the holoprinter.
Cube 3's Drew Hurley criticized the gameplay loop, saying that the gathering is grindy, the crafting unrewarding, and the combat boring and repetitive. He gave it a 3 out of 10. It's devoid of all things great that made Survival Evolved fun to play at. Performance-wise, however, compared to the abysmal PC version, this PS4 port is a smoother experience, but that doesn't mean it's still good. It receives a play score of a 5.33. Number 9 is Afro Samurai 2 Revenge of Kuma Volume 1. Rare is a game so bad the developers decided to cancel every future plans of the project and remove it from the very face of the earth. They even had to issue refunds to those who bought it. It was so terrible they no longer want to complete the next 2 volumes. It's based on a very popular manga about Afro samurais mixed with hip-hop. It's a huge downgrade from the first Afro Samurai game from 2009, which received favorable reviews. Calling this game bad is an understatement. To start off, the game has no direction. The entire pilgrimage of the hero is never realized. Every time it comes close to a major story development, the game completely forgets about it. The blatant sexism, the terrible gameplay, and a bit of bugs in between, it's an obvious flop. And of all the reviewers, Destructoid hated the game so much they gave it a 1, reducing its review to 2 words: digital seppuku. I mean, come on. There's no reason to seriously considering buying this game. Even the devs are removing it from most major game stores. The only good thing about this game is its soundtrack, which is a banger. And as for the rest, the game has a play score of a 5.16. Number 8 is Left Alive. Considered as a spin-off for Front Mission, Square Enix's brand new action survival game feels like a hot topic version of Metal Gear. The game takes you to the dark and gritty future where technology is rampant and mechs are a thing. You take control of 3 protagonists with different perspectives. Sounds cool, right? But no, according to most players, the game is complete garbage. Its lackluster content makes you feel that the devs knew what they were doing when they actually named it Left Alive. Because you know, the game is either dead or dying.
Caution, the enemy is approaching.
Most of the game's issues come from its technical hiccups, and they even had the audacity to sell this game with a AAA price tag. There's no good reason to purchase this title in its current state, or maybe forever, like please. Push Square gave the game a 2 out of 10, disappointed by everything the game delivered, saying that Left Alive categorically fails at everything it sets out to accomplish. Because it's a shame, since a lot of talented people from popular video game franchises extended their help only to produce this abomination. So it's better off dead, really. It receives a play score of a 5.13. Number 7 is Tennis World Tour. Sports games can be bad too, especially when the devs don't bother trying. Tennis World Tour was supposed to be the new standard for tennis. You could choose from a wide variety of iconic professional players and even experience a deep career mode. Ooh. You might be asking, how is it bad when it follows the same formula as the other sports titles? Well, the answer is, like most games on this list, it is an incomplete mess. Even after a year since its release, no major improvements were made to the game regarding its slow movement and game-breaking bugs. And not to mention some shady practice from the developers when they decided to put this game out. Dual Shockers gave it a 3 out of 10, attacking the game's terrible marketing and presentation. They said it's one thing to not have key features at launch, but the absence of solid gameplay puts the final nail in the coffin. The game might appease some casual players though, but to those who spend the full price tag, they would think it to be a waste of their money and their time. Other foreign reviewers such as Multiplayer and IGN Italy both gave it a 5 out of 10. At least they're a bit forgiving, but they still share the same concern from most of the reviewers. In conclusion, don't buy it. It has a play score of a 5.04. Number 6 is Bravo Team. This is an unexpected disappointment from the company that gave us the horrifying Until Dawn and even the recent Dark Pictures Man of Medan. Bravo Team is a VR shooter and another victim of rushed development. Only created within 13 months, it gave a bad rep for supermassive games considering that they should know better. It was intended to be this groundbreaking VR shooter, but unfortunately it was far from that. Its cover shooter elements are broken and it doesn't feel like a 2018 game. And aside from the fact that enemies are bullet sponges, they make no sense. Their AI is so bad it feels like they wanted to die with the game too. And with this, Tech Raptor was so furious and confused by the game's design, giving it a 2 out of 10, saying that it is absolutely baffling how truly bad Bravo Team really is. Nothing about this game screams, this is a final product ready for release. It is marred by numerous bugs and various performance issues resulting from the rushed development, so it is as expected. So Bravo Team is a definite foobar, and it receives a play score of a 5.04. Number 5 is The Quiet Man. Another example of ambitious titles that failed to thrive. The Quiet Man is Square Enix's immersive narrative-driven story accompanied with an energetic combat and live action sequences. They even had the gall to hire actors for this one, but to be fair, they're kinda good. The game is just bad. It has a really interesting concept, but horrible execution. The entire game is set within one night, and it showcases Square's seamless mix of live action elements and CGI. It's a shame because the environments are so good, but it all boils down to one thing. The game is boring. Cultured Vulture's Ashley Bates gave it a 2 out of 10, saying that consider it a fairly cheap palette cleanser that'll make you appreciate the much better games on the market. Most of the major concerns come from its silent world, since you take control of a deaf protagonist. You literally cannot hear anything at all. There are no subtitles even when other people are talking. It's a conceptual catastrophe that failed to capture the real intention of the creators for the players. Even GameSpot gave it a 2 out of 10, criticizing the boring combat, saying that the simplistic, ungainly combat is all the more surprising given that it is the Quiet Man's only gameplay mechanic. Ouch. It receives a play score of a 5.02. Number 4 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. It's heartbreaking to see one of our favorite childhood games get sequels that don't even compare to the original. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is a sad and disappointing follow-up to a legendary series. To make the long story short, it's a technical mess. Most of the controls don't even work as intended, and the classic attitude that made Pro Skater great was gone. Jimquisition's Jim Sterling gave it a 2 out of 10, saying that Tony Hawk 5 looks like the burned corpse of a three-legged sheep and plays like the results of teaching a chimpanzee how to code. Oof. Even with an online mode that makes no sense, it's better if you're doing it offline on your own as it adds no variety to gameplay. The lack of social features makes multiplayer tedious, jarring, and could cause some performance drops to your gameplay, so why bother? GamesRadar gave it a 1.5 out of 5, citing that it's a constant reminder of how much greater the originals were, and how much you'd rather be playing them instead. Purchasing this game at its full retail price is a terrible idea, so it's best we follow the advice of GamesRadar. you're better off playing the classics instead. It has a play score of a 4.90. Number 3 is Weeping Doll. Horror games are a unique bunch. As long as they scare the crap out of us, they have the past to be okay, and we'd recommend it to our friends. Weeping Doll is unlike any other horror games though. It's a cheap pandering for the fans of the genre with its uninspired and generic designs. But oh yeah, this is a VR title that tries to accomplish something great with its haunting atmosphere, but it fails to retain its consistency in its short game time. ZTGD gave it a 3, citing that it's not even terrifying. The only thing scary is how disappointingly mediocre this experience is. There are a lot of horror games on the market, and Weeping Doll shares no distinctiveness to the other great titles. It's a shame, considering that the visuals are pretty top-notch. GameSpew also disliked the game's presentation, giving it a 4 out of 10, saying that the confusing set pieces, empty story, and rough dialogue will distract you from enjoying the experience. Weeping Doll sets a lesson that horror games doesn't always have to be played in virtual reality. It has a play score of a 4.78. At second place is Road Rage. Also another example of a game that you're better off playing with its original version. Road Rage is a shoddy racing game with open world elements. As a rider, it is your job to own the streets and smack those who stand in your way. But underneath its testosterone-fueled presentation, it's an underwhelming game with no reason to play at all. Everything is monotonous and it gets pretty repetitive doing the same missions again and again. TSA was so annoyed at its gameplay loop, especially the unfulfilling combat and road raging. They gave it a 2 out of 10, saying that the game has become harder to tolerate knowing just how deeply unfulfilling the core gameplay is, even when you factor in the budget price tag. It's a terrible title that leaves no satisfaction at the end of the road. At least the PlayStation 1 Classic was so very well received, so you could just try playing that one instead. It has a play score of a 4.56. And the worst PlayStation 4 game so far is still Basement Crawl. This pathetic excuse of a Bomberman-inspired game is still the reigning champion of whataplay's worst PlayStation 4 games. Just like Bomberman, you blow up your enemies to smithereens. But Basement Crawl isn't just all that. It also has major horror elements, and it's sad nobody gets to feel its bone-chilling atmosphere due to its abysmal performance issues.
I'm not sure how that killed me.
In addition to that, the game's other major concern comes from its easily exploitable online mode. Hacks and game-breaking bugs plague its servers, ruining the entire experience. There is no sense going back to this already broken title, so it's best we leave it in the basement. PS Universe gave it a 4 out of 10, saying that the game tries too hard to recapture the magic of Bomberman, but has a hard time with its horror theme, lack of a real tutorial, and online connectivity issues. The rest of the reviewers, including IGN, GameSpot, GamesRadar, Polygon, and Destructoid, all had one thing in common to say about this train wreck. It's best you play Bomberman instead. It has a play score of a 4.26.